Mark, describe what it's like to be black at Facebook.
To be black at Facebook is really finding your community, because you don't see a lot of people who look like you. The majority of Facebook's population is white and Asian. So when you see other black employees, you look to them for support. And that's how a lot of the conversations that were the start of this post came from.
Now, you write in the memo that not only did you feel marginalized, that you would walk by employees and at least 2 or 3 times a day, employees would look at you, tap and hold their wallets and shove their hands into their pockets. You know, why did you decide to go public with these feelings?
Because there are so many employees who are going through the same thing. Prior to the post going internal, I would have a conversation with an employee, a black employee, every single week, at least, who would say, you know, I'm going through this, or I'm having a tough time, you know, with diversity on my team, or I'm being called hostile, or things like that. And so even if every black employee didn't experience everything that was listed in the post, chances are they've experienced at least a little bit of it. And so it was tough to walk through the Facebook campus and know that this is a company that promotes inclusion and diversity, but that not being reflected in my day-to-day experiences there.
Now, Facebook executives, including Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg, have had a lot to say about some of the other criticism they've been getting recently about, you know, this delay, deny, deflect with respect to Russian election meddling, leadership issues, and more. But they didn't say anything to you about this?
They did not, and that is really uncharacteristic of the company. Usually, for something that is this conversational inside the company, there is some comment from Mark or Sheryl or somebody from that team to say, okay, we're thinking about it, at least. But a lot of black employees felt even more marginalized because they didn't get the same treatment or the same conversation that other issues may have received.
Now, you did get a response from Ime Archibong, who is one of the highest-ranking black employees at Facebook, who said to you, I guess I'm just confused and pretty hurt because I voted for your hire, was inspired by your willingness to strengthen the community, and that post just seems so out of character. He later tweeted that, you know, many have diverse experiences, diverse perspectives, but that your experience, you know, may not represent the experience of others. What do you make of that response?
Well, it's interesting because about a week before I handed in my resignation, one of the employees told me the only black employee who gets to be their authentic self is Ime. And that's really unfortunate because I think there's a disparity between the people who are close to Mark and his team and the employees who are on the ground level. So I think it's disingenuous to say that this is just my experience or that I'm out there just, you know, putting out all kinds of information about the company that isn't true. Because I was so visible in the company is why I decided to put this out. That I didn't want to be just another black employee who left the company and didn't say anything. And actually, the day that I put the post up internally, I had 3 different people come up to me and say, actually, I handed in my resignation for the very same reason. And so I do it for them, and I'm doing it for all these people.
Facebook did respond. We got this from a spokesperson. We've been working diligently to increase the range of perspectives among those who build our products and serve the people who use them throughout the world. The growth and representation of people from more diverse groups working in many different functions across the company is a key driver of our ability to succeed. Now, importantly, you point out in your memo, this is not just about employees' experience at Facebook. You believe that this extends to the experience of black users on Facebook. How so?
Well, what's happening with black users is that there's a lack of cultural competency inside of Facebook because most of the people who work at the company are white and Asian. They really don't think of the black experience, which is a shame because black users are overperforming on the platform. And so it's a missed opportunity, it's a missed financial opportunity for Facebook to not engage with those users in a meaningful way, and also to make their experience on the platform much more difficult through all the ways that it's taking action and inaction.
Now, this, had me recall the incident back in 2016 where there were Black Lives Matter slogans written on a wall at Facebook. Employees had crossed that out and written All Lives Matter. Mark Zuckerberg did condemn that. You also worked at Twitter, and I'm curious how your experience at Facebook compared to your experience at Twitter, and whether it's more deep-seated than perhaps Zuckerberg realizes.
Yeah, the great thing about Facebook is that there are posters all through every one of its offices, particularly in its headquarters, many of them which proclaim Black Lives Matter. But as I mentioned in the post, Black Lives may matter, but you're not seeing Black lives as frequently inside of Facebook's headquarters. I think the biggest difference between Twitter and Facebook is the scale, and that Twitter really made a lot of changes in the last couple of years, a lot of improvements. Their Black Employee Resource Group is active and engaging with the community. Someone internally asked me, do you think this problem just happens at Facebook? And of course, no. But for Facebook to proclaim that it is connecting communities and really supporting these groups, what happens after they get hired? You have to think about being inclusive and not just hiring Black employees.
What's your response to the general leadership issues, both Zuckerberg and Sandberg under fire for how they've handled this Russian situation? Do you think that they should still be running this company?
I think that's up to other people to decide whether they should be running the company. I think what's happening in tech is that the leaders inside of tech are thinking the best possible cases, the best possible use cases for their technology, and not thinking about the worst. And that's where you see issues like the Russian hackings, like the fake news issues, and of course this issue about the Black people on its platform. So it would behoove tech companies, not just Facebook, but all, to think about, okay, how is this going to get in the hands of the wrong people, and how can we curb that before it goes to market?
Now, as I understand it, you've quit tech and you've moved to Atlanta, and you're done with Silicon Valley for good. Is that correct? That is correct, unfortunately. So why? Can an employee like you help Silicon Valley change?
Well, I tried to affect as much change as possible. I had a great run at Twitter and ultimately moved on because there was more that I could do, and the company wouldn't have been the great place to do that. Facebook, I was very determined to stay there as long as possible, and I was going through issues, with living in a mostly white neighborhood. I was going through issues with having my work curbed at every level, and so I said to myself, I can't give up my social life, my personal life, my health, and my security to work for a company that isn't supporting me, and also not supporting a lot of people who work in diversity. They hire a lot of these people, but they're finding that their efforts are being curtailed left and right. Well, and Black people are sorely underrepresented at Facebook, in addition to Latinos, in addition to even women, despite Sheryl Sandberg's leadership. What do you think Facebook needs to do about this? I think Facebook needs to think beyond the pipeline and think about the non-technical roles. I think that's what doesn't get talked about a lot. Certainly there are a lot of engineers who work inside of Facebook, but there are many more roles across the company that have everything to do from VR to building internet in third world countries. And you're still not seeing that diversity on those teams. Thankfully, I worked in partnerships, which has a significant number of Black people, but they're still few and far between. So I would like them to go beyond, the people that they know, the people that they've worked with previously, who are more likely to get in the door, and to engage and see who else is out there that we may not just be thinking of because we don't have personal relationships with them.